We recently received some amazing news. Senator Schumer recently disclosed that if you get Social Security, SSI, SSDI, or VA payments, a whopping $2,800 will be sent to you. That's fantastic, but let me explain. This money isn't just being given to you at random. It's my responsibility to support people who may be struggling, like you. This income boost is for you, whether you're retired and dependent on Social Security, managing impairments with SSI or SSDI help, or a courageous soldier receiving VA benefits. So let's get started. We'll offer you all the juicy details, including who qualifies for the additional funds, when they should arrive in your bank account, and what you should do to ensure that you do. We assure you that you won't want to pass up this chance to improve your financial situation. A little boost, but we're not only here to tell you what's going on, we're also here to help you make the most of it. We'll give you advice on how to manage your money so you can stretch that $2,800 even farther and leverage it to your advantage. The current COLA formula, according to many advocates, failed to keep up with rising prices for food, electricity, healthcare, and other important needs for elderly and the disabled, despite inflation having skyrocketed over the past year. In an effort to make up for this shortfall, the letting of and full adjustment of dispersions. The Bipartisan LEAD Act was introduced in Congress earlier this year. It calls for an emergency $2,800 inflation compensation payment for all Social Security beneficiaries, including those receiving VA, SSDI, and SSI benefits. Although it hasn't been put to a vote yet, the LEAD Act is widely supported. In order to prevent a government shutdown in September, a number of influential senators from both parties have openly declared their desire to attach the one-time $2,800 payment as an amendment to the upcoming federal budget bill. If this payment is authorized in the Social Security Administration's Operations Manual states that any additional payments authorized for all recipients must be disbursed within 3 months of the final budget. Months during which beneficiaries could genuinely see that money hit their bank accounts or receive a check in the mail. Bill's passing indicates that if the $2,800 payments are part of legislation that must be passed by September 30th, the emergency funds must be disbursed by the end of December at the latest. Industry analysts anticipate that the Social Security Administration will move considerably more quickly in light of prior large one-time payments of this kind. After final approval, the first wave of $2,800 payouts is expected to be made within 4 to 6 weeks. This means that for millions of seniors and other beneficiaries who are struggling to pay for necessities like groceries, rent, prescription drugs, and other necessities, the additional $2,800 could arrive in time to cover increased holiday expenses. According to Amanda Dixon, a pension consultant at Riviere Associates, this payment would be a lifeline to help fixed-income households that have seen their buying power collapse over the past 2 years catch up and pay off some outstanding obligations. These bills include winter utility bills and charges. Though it's important to remember that not all beneficiaries would necessarily qualify for the full $2,800 payment under the proposed LEAD Act guidelines, the $2,800 payment would apply to all beneficiaries. Toronto. It could be one less financial headache for those living paycheck to paycheck or getting deeper into debt. In the Retired Disability and Supplemental Income programs run by the Social Security Administration, each person's exact benefit amount is determined by their unique situation. Generally speaking, the full $2,800 payment would probably be available to any beneficiary who has been receiving dividends for at least a year. If they're yearly, based on similar past programs, income from other sources is below a certain threshold, estimated to be around $17,500 for single people or $23,000 for married couples. As a result, a retired senior or disabled adult receiving modest monthly payments from a former employer or having no outside income would almost certainly receive the maximum $2,800. Payment nonetheless. In certain situations, millionaire beneficiaries with exceptionally high earnings may see their one-time payments cut to just a few hundred or eliminated completely. high-income beneficiaries above those thresholds may see a sliding scale reduction in their payments based on their total combined income from all sources. To ascertain a beneficiary's eligibility status and payment amount, the Social Security Administration would consult each beneficiary's most recent tax return and Social Security earnings statements. Crucial qualification notes for particular beneficiary groups for Social Security retirement would also be evaluated. Finally, beneficiaries would be required to have attained the full retirement age of 65. The age of 67, or started receiving SSDI payments at least a year prior to the payment's issuance. Any government pensions, investment income, or earnings from part-time employment would be taken into account while determining eligibility. Benefits obtained on behalf of a dependent spouse, child, or relative would not affect eligibility. Eligibility for SSI benefits would depend on each beneficiary's income, assets, and living circumstances. If a person has modest assets over $2,000 or $3,000 for a pair and is permanently disabled and enrolled in Medicaid, their SSI benefits may be lowered. The full $2,800 payout for VA beneficiaries would probably be received by SSI recipients. Disability benefits or VA pension for a minimum of 12 months. Age and income would ultimately determine final eligibility. VA healthcare, SS Med benefits alone would not qualify for payment of the full VA payment amount. Although the precise qualifying requirements and income limit criteria are still being worked out, the general idea is similar to the stimulus checks given out during the pandemic. These emergency payments aim to put money in the hands of financially strapped households when they most need it, that is, lower-income beneficiaries who have been impacted most by inflation and rising costs. Dixon adds that the situation is getting worse and that this is a very focused approach to assist a particular vulnerable group. Naturally, any significant federal payout involving more than 60 million beneficiaries will have its eligibility requirements and distribution processes closely examined, as long as the LEAD Act continues to garner bipartisan support. The Social Security. If a $2,800 payment provision is successfully included in the federal budget, which is anticipated to pass sometime between late August and the end of September, Social Security Administrator Kilo Loki-Jawi and her agency would kick in the money. But the administration will likely be under extremely tight deadlines once a potential payment is approved. Went into overdrive to oversee and carry out the complete process from beginning to end within the 90 days maximum that the law requires. However, the majority of policy experts think that Loki-Jawi and her team would strive to have the majority of payments made even faster, within 45 to 60 days after acceptance. Below is a general timeline of what happens after the president signs any budget. Weeks 1 through 3 of the bill, authorizing the payments into law weeks 2 through 4 of the agency's data poll, are used by Social Security to publish comprehensive eligibility standards and qualification amounts based on income. To determine who is eligible for benefits based on their current records, week 3 to 6 installments are processed in batches according to location, the type of benefit claimed on an individual versus a joint tax return, and other factors. Payments start to arrive by paper checks made out on Direct Express debit cards or direct bank deposits based on week 4 to 8, affecting beneficiaries' existing configurations. The Social Security Administration has not yet provided comments on any specific disbursement details, but in their public statements, they have emphasized that they are prepared to implement any emergency funding measures that have been authorized through their current payment channels and resource allocations. Social Security's Chief Financial Officer Amy Thompson stated in a recent public advisory that there are parsable economic relief scenarios that might be included in upcoming legislation. Rest assured, however, that we have the resources and operational framework in place to deliver any approved emergency payments to the public promptly and securely, without tens of millions, could receive a much-needed financial boost from these possible one-time payments without any delay or interruption. Not everyone accepts a proposition in its entirety. One of the main concerns raised by the opponents is the assertion that the $2,800 sum was seemingly chosen at random. giving out $2,800 checks to recipients without doing any research on whether that amount is appropriate or sufficient to truly counteract the effects of inflation on beneficiaries may make for good politics, but it doesn't always make good policy. Marrying a research associate at the Heritage Foundation's ENT for Economic Policy, Health and Welfare Policies for the Elderly and Disabled, who receive fixed income, even after receiving that one-time payment, individuals would still face challenges due to rising housing, food, and medical expenditures.